Pete appeared to be in pain. Oliver immediately took action, using healing magic on Pete's back. Oliver would channel magical energy to regulate Pete's magic flow. However, this was only a temporary solution. It turned out that Pete's body was still not accustomed to regulating magic flow for a female body. Afterward, Pete felt better. Nevertheless, Oliver believed that this would continue to happen until Pete's body adjusted. Nevertheless, Oliver was ready to help whenever they were in the same room. He said this while stroking Pete's head, making Pete feel embarrassed. Before they went back to sleep, Oliver advised Pete that he couldn't hide this from his friends for much longer. The next day, Pete informed the others about his reversal condition when they gathered. Katie and Michela were very impressed when they heard about it. However, Pete still couldn't understand what he could be proud of regarding his condition. He also didn't know how to utilize his new body. Then Keke wanted to teach Pete something simple. Because Pete now had a female body, he also had an important organ, the uterus. For female witches, this organ is called the second heart. The uterus is also known as a storage unit for magic energy. When running low on magic energy, its lid automatically opens and replenishes the depleted part. Michela suggested that Pete practice opening and closing it at will. Then Michela demonstrated how to open it. Immediately, Pete felt a significant surge of energy. Michela explained that Pete's stored energy was flowing in. This would increase his energy several times over and boost his magical attack power. Shortly after, Michela closed it again. When Nanao saw this, it was the first time she realized that the uterus was a storage unit for magic energy. Being a woman herself, she wondered if she could do it too. Quite casually, Nanao tried to lift her skirt, but Oliver promptly stopped her. After that, Katie asked Pete if he liked dresses with frills. She wanted Pete to try various outfits. Suddenly, Tulio interrupted their excitement. He said he didn't come to pick a fight, he just wanted to vent. After his fight with Oliver, he kept losing repeatedly. He had lost his motivation because he saw his limits. Tulio also warned Oliver that there were strong participants out there. After that, they attended the magic sword science class. This time, Pete had a duel with Stacy. For some reason, Stacy seemed angry with Pete. She said she would get back at him for humiliating her earlier. Pete and his friends didn't understand why Stacy was behaving this way. This duel wouldn't end with just one attack. It would only end when the time was up. As they started, Stacy easily scored 1 point. Pete tried to attack again, but he was tripped by Stacy. His friends advised Pete to stay calm. Guy reminded him that he could use spells in this duel. However, Stacy was confident that she wouldn't lose in a spell duel. Pete immediately recited Tonitrus, but Stacy effortlessly dodged it. Katie wondered if Pete didn't want to make use of his current body. However, Michela replied that it was likely Pete couldn't reach that level yet. Pete tried Tonitrus multiple times, but none of them hit. Now Stacy counterattacked with the same spell. Pete was struck hard by the lightning spell. Stacy remembered when she was humiliated by Pete. During a class with Theodore, Pete proudly announced that he had read all volumes of his book, embarrassing Stacy in front of her uncle. At this moment, despite continuously receiving attacks, Oliver felt that Pete hadn't given up yet. Stacy underestimated Pete at this point. It was her chance to attack, and Pete immediately stepped forward to avoid Stacy's lightning spell. Although he stumbled briefly, Pete would score 1 point if time didn't run out. After the duel ended, Pete cried because he didn't score a single point. However, his friends tried to cheer him up. Pete even managed to perform a surprise attack using the reset flow called the heroic attack. Stacy had suspected that Michela taught him that technique. She viewed Michela as someone trying to undermine her. In the evening, as usual, Katie was keeping the troll company near its pen. Suddenly, she received a letter from the crow's servant spirit. After opening it, the letter contained a map leading to the studio formerly owned by Vera. She invited her friends to go there together, saying that Vera had given her the place. However, her friends were skeptical of Vera's intentions. Katie tried to reassure them because Vera wrote in the letter that it was her way of apologizing. Moreover, they were very fortunate to get a studio as first-year students. Michela explained that before obtaining the studio, the journey through the labyrinth to reach it was much more dangerous. Oliver also felt it was too soon for this. Suddenly, Katie explained that 820 half-human creatures were being exploited to death here every year. The Academy treated magical creatures poorly and killed them unnecessarily. Katie wanted to change that practice. First, she had to become a successful researcher. That's why she needed a place to care for magical creatures. Katie knew she couldn't manage it alone, so she asked for her friends' help. She begged them to help her take care of the studio. Nana was the first to agree to help her. She analogized the studio as Katie's castle and wanted to protect it like a samurai. In the end, Michela, Guy, and Pete also agreed. It was just Oliver who hadn't agreed yet. Before he agreed, Oliver presented a condition, prioritizing their safety. If they met that condition, Oliver was even willing to go to the studio right away. Fortunately, it was already the end of the week. Now they were inside the labyrinth. Nana brought her flying broom even though there was no place to fly. She said she wanted to spend more time with it, and her broom's mood tended to change suddenly. Meanwhile, Katie was leading the way to the studio. She felt there would be no problem in their journey as long as they were together. However, Oliver once again reminded them that the labyrinth was full of various dangers. For now, no one should get lost. Just as he said that, Katie was suddenly fooled by a group of ball mice. Fortunately, her friends stopped her. Now they had been walking for quite a while. And for some reason, the route they had taken was full of magical creatures. Guy suspected that Katie intentionally chose this route. Suddenly, Katie instructed everyone to stop. She showed them that ahead of them were many concealed arrow shells. If they walked carelessly, they would be pricked by those shells. Katie tried to assure them that the pricks wouldn't be lethal, just a bit painful. However, she had a solution to pass through that path. The arrow shells would fall asleep if they smelled a certain incense. Katie had brought the incense and lit it. Suddenly, Nanao felt something strange from behind. It turned out there was a strong gust of wind blowing toward the path. As a result, the scent of the incense disappeared, and they had to run as fast as they could to avoid getting pricked by the arrow shells. After running out of breath, they finally managed to escape from the arrow shell area. However, Guy had some thorns stuck in his buttocks. Not far from there, they smelled something delicious. As they approached the source, it turned out to be a group of first-year students who were roasting and eating meat. Among them was a student dressed in military attire. He said they were having a barbecue party to welcome new members of the Labyrinth Feast Club. The club members were looking for any creatures in the labyrinth to eat. Some of them even had blurry vision from eating mushrooms. The club president casually told them to drink the antidote. After finding out what they were cooking, Katie and the others lost their appetite for the enticing smell. After leaving the scene, Michela informed them that the club president was quite famous. His name was Kevin Walker, known as the Survivor. Rumor had it that Kevin had disappeared on the lower floor of the labyrinth for half a year and then returned alive during his own funeral ceremony. Suddenly, Guy invited the others to have a barbecue too. They went to a food vendor inside the labyrinth. The vendor asked them what kind of ingredients they wanted, whether they just wanted to be full or have a lively party. Oliver replied that the most important thing was that it tasted good. The vendor provided them with a large quantity of ingredients at a low price. He even gave them a bonus as new customers. Not long after that, they finally reached their destination. Katie solved the riddle using the clues on the map, and a wall in front of them opened up to reveal a studio. The place was spacious and well-equipped. Afterward, they started cooking with the ingredients they had bought earlier. Guy took care of the barbecue, and Katie made soup. Michela was lost in thought while the others were bustling about. However, she wasn't bored. Michela was actually amazed because it was the first time she had experienced something like this. She even had a suggestion to give the six of them a name. Because this moment was so precious to her, She wanted to make it special. However, they were puzzled about what name to use. Suddenly, Nanao stood up and asked the others to unsheathe their swords. They formed a circle and pointed their swords toward the center. As a result, the blade tips that overlapped each other resembled a sword flower. In Nanao's hometown, this was called a kenka, a form that symbolized the relationship between warriors. They didn't need to swear to be together forever. They just needed to remember the shape of the flower that bloomed today. No matter what happened in the future, their blooming flower of today would never wither. And so, Nanao proposed the name Sword Flower Group. They all agreed. From this moment on, these 6 individuals were the Sword Flower Group. At the end of the episode, Stacy seemed to have defeated another competition participant. Then Faye came to share interesting information. She said that Michelle and the others were inside the labyrinth. Upon hearing this, Stacy felt it was her opportunity to attack them.